like that cherry bomb.
Hello, Kate. Welcome to Breaking Beauty Podcast. So yesterday, Jill and I had truly divine facials at your space in Melrose Place. So beautiful. And we were obsessed with the actual location because for anyone who doesn't know, it's tucked back, kind of like secret. It reminds you almost have to go in through a tunnel. It's near the Alfred's coffee shop. And then you go up and you go in and it's almost this Parisian wrought iron staircase. But you've got this huge sign on the wall that says it's a very historic space and it's linked to some celebrities. What can you tell us about that?
Well, I just got so lucky when I found this building. I was looking for space. I had just left a plastic surgeon, really prominent plastic surgeon, and it was just time for me to do my own thing. And I was so struck by Melrose Place because I come from a small town. I grew up in a small town, and that street just feels small town. It's like almost like cobblestone, you know. And back then it was really sleepy. It's so busy now. It has so many retailers on it. But the cool thing is the building was actually built by the first woman to ever win an Oscar. And so for me, that is just so special because I just feel like just being a woman in business. And I almost feel like she's like guided my whole career in a weird way. And then Sean Connery, it was his home when he was here filming. So, you know, the fireplace, I'm like, only if this fireplace could talk.
Totally.
And we still get his mail, which is so cool. Like, it's addressed to him.
Oh, my gosh.
And then Johnny Depp actually had the upstairs when I was downstairs. So Croft Alley, the little restaurant, was actually, you can't even imagine what it was, but it was so cute. And I had 3 rooms to start, and then we quickly moved to 8 and then 14, and then Johnny moved out, and I was like, oh, that's my space. And so we moved up there.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's special.
The walls, if they could talk.
Oh, yeah. So whenever we speak to founders, Kate, we always ask them sort of their story, their childhood. And I know that you've shared openly your childhood and how much of a challenge it was. So maybe you can fill our listeners in if they're not as familiar with your story.
Yeah. So I lived in a little tiny town called Fresno in the middle of California, and both of my parents were teachers, and unfortunately, like I had a really good upbringing till about 9, and then my mom left my dad, and she ended up moving back to Santa Barbara, where she was from, and she just was a partier. You know, it was the 70s, and you know, the party just never ended for her, and she ended up being an extreme addict, drugs, alcohol, and ended up homeless. Wow. And so, and I was still really involved with her life. So there was a lot of turmoil. Just like, you know, me thinking, okay, like this is the bottom. And then the bottom was unimaginable. Like to the point where she was, you know, sitting, I would drive by and she'd be sitting on a bus stage, you know, like bench, you know, just in really bad state. And I have a lot of compassion for homelessness too, because my mom was homeless, and you know, it's not a choice. Like my mom wouldn't have chosen, I think, to obviously be sick, you know. She'd want to be a good mom, but she literally, because I put her through rehab a few times, but she just couldn't pull herself together. So you know, for me at one point, because I have a son, and it just got so toxic that I had to cut her out of my life. But at the end, I was lucky enough that I got a call, and I got to be with her when she died. Oh, wow. So that was really amazing. And just like the things that have happened to me after, because I moved back to Santa Barbara, you know, about 10, 12 years ago, and just like the healing that I've gotten. Like I met the guy that actually got her in hospice before she died, and it was just by chance that I met him.
Wow.
And just like really amazing things, like some healing for me. But yeah, it was a crazy childhood, you know, and I left at 15 because my dad remarried, and I just live with my friends. And it's so crazy though, because as a kid, like I had eczema really bad, and like look at what that turned into. It turned into skin, right? Skincare. And it turned into like really understanding when someone has a skin issue. Like I can relate to them because I didn't grow up feeling good in my skin. Like it was always itchy, it always hurt. Like I could just look at someone and go, okay, I know where you are, you know? And it turned into this positive, and like my mom's trajectory of being homeless. So now Kate Somerville, we're helping kids in foster care. So like everything bad has kind of come full circle in a weird way in my life to be like this awesome positive.
Yeah. I have so many questions. I feel like, and I guess this is related to what you're doing now with Foster Nation, but you know, I have a friend who, she was one of my best friends in university and has a similar story. And she's very successful now. Her siblings weren't so lucky. And I'm curious, you know, breaking the cycle is the most difficult thing in the world because these memories are embedded into you, and you know.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious what you think is the difference maker. What drove you? What got you out of that into where you are today? You must get asked this all the time. Was there something you can look back at and say, this was it?
This is why we're helping foster kids. Like it totally makes me want to cry. Sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Take your time.
It was a mentor. Like I literally, first off, I had really good friends around me, and my dad was also a really good dad, but he just couldn't give me what I needed as a kid just because he started a new life and it just didn't fit with his new family. But for me, it was this one woman named Barbara Wells, and she was a mom of one of my boyfriends, and she had cancer. She had stage 4 cancer, and she survived 12 years having cancer because her husband left her, and she had 3 kids.
Wow.
And one of the children actually had schizophrenia, so she kind of had to fight to stay alive for her kids because the dad wasn't around. And she took me in, and at a really critical time. Like I was drinking a lot, I was partying, I was lost, I was super sad because my mom was so tumultuous, and I was just lost, you know. And she took me in, I lived with her, and she was kind of like really good love, but also hard love. Like she loved me unconditionally. Like at one moment, she actually like held me and let me cry, and she was just like, I am here for you no matter what. And then like I would freak out over dumb things like a teenager would, and she had cancer, right? She had no hair left. She used to be incredibly beautiful, but chemo made her really puffy. And she just looked at me one day and she goes, I just want you to know, like, your looks are not gonna carry you forever, and you have to get okay inside. And the last thing that she really said to me, she said, you know, Kate, you have a choice in what your life will be. And you can either make it, you know, sad and like tumultuous and continue the chaos that your mom and dad led you into, or you can take a hold and have a great life. And when you're a kid, you don't have control. So you have to kind of just survive it, right? And figure out how to survive it. But with that knowledge, and I was over 18, I was like, what do you mean I can have my own life, like in a good life? And she goes, it's your choice now. You're an adult. And it just hit me. I'm like, you're right. And I am not kidding you. Like that week, I changed my life. Like I was waitressing. I was doing college in Fresno. I wasn't happy in Fresno. There was a lot of baggage there for me. And my dream was always to move to the coast. I literally got in my little bug, and I had this little blue bug. It was called Tootaroo because it had two, the license plate. And I drove to the coast that week. I found a place to live. I found 3 jobs. I was a waitress for 7 years there, and I changed my life. And it took me a long time to really unfold the chaos, though.
Yeah,
like that was a journey, and it was really a lot of reading books. There's a book by Melody Beattie called Codependent No More that saved my life. And it's so crazy because I got to meet her. She actually became a client of mine. It's just how my life, the crazy things came together. But I just really said and there was moments where I knew I could go down a bad path, or I'd see the light and I go, no, this may be the harder path, but I'm going to stick to this, And so I just tell people that are in tough situations, the light, right? What's right and wrong, and maybe that right path will be harder and you won't know, right? It's like you have to have faith. When we were looking at what social mission, I'm like, that was me, right? But I wasn't in the foster program, but these kids are they've been shuffled sometimes 50 homes. So these kids have had it really tough, and so we're here to help them and guide them, and anybody that's interested in the beauty field that's a foster kid can actually come to our company. We mentor, and we also have scholarships that we're giving. In fact, our first recipient just graduated from aesthetic school.
Incredible.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So you were on this path, you moved in your book to the coast, you're waitressing. How did the aesthetics happen? How did that journey begin?
Well, it's interesting because I was waitressing just to kind of make ends meet, but waitressing wasn't, my end all be all. And I'll never forget, I knew I needed to leave. This one guy whistled for me to come over, and I was I kind of gave him part of my mind. And then my manager came over and he's like, Katie, you can't do that. And I'm like, I know, I think it's time for me to leave. And I had a really good friend that was a dermatologist, and her nurses had just started doing kind of peels in her office, and doing more injectables, because she was more medical, right? She was taking care of diseases, and her aesthetic side was starting to come together, but through nurses. And she goes, I think you should do this. And so I went back to aesthetic school. It took me 3 months. I put a business plan together with my best friend. She was an international business major, so she knew how to do that. And I literally was armed with this awesome business plan, and I just started calling the doctors in my area. And it was scary, though, you guys, because doctors at that point didn't even know what an esthetician was. What I was doing didn't even exist. And I found everyone said yes when I went in. I don't even know why they took the meeting either, because somehow I got through to the actual doctor and made an appointment. And I opened my first office, and it was just successful. And I'm so lucky too, because the doctors saw my tenacity and they let me into the OR. Then they started giving me more responsibility. I did all of the injectables for my doctor, did all the peels, pre and post-op, after facelifts, and and then lasers came on the scene about 3 years into my career. And that's when I knew I wanted to start my own skincare line, because a lot of the women couldn't use products. And so it at each step of the way was guided, but it took guts, right? And that's the other thing I would say to your listeners is, you may have an idea and it may feel really paralyzingly scary. But all you have to do is make a list. Like I used to make lists all the time, and they were like little detailed lists of where you want to go. And I would do I would always write in a journal, okay, this is the vision that I see for my life. And most of them came true.
Yeah,
so if you put it out there and then do the details to get there, you can create something amazing.
I'm going to start journaling.
Yeah,
as soon as I
am
get back
so
to
inspired
Toronto.
right now.
Okay, here we go. I want to ask you about your location, where you said is sort of the heart of your business, because I understand that you opened that in 2004, and just within a year, you had a long list of celebrities coming in. How did that happen?
Well, so the physician that I worked for before, his name was Stephen Hofflin, and he did everyone, the who's who. It was Pamela Anderson, Liz Taylor, people I can't name, and so I really understood that level of dealing with that kind of level of...
You were in it.
Of clientele.
I was in it, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And when I opened Kate Somerville on Melrose Place, I had maybe a handful of famous people, but what really stood out was when I opened it, I was doing something so different than anyone else in town or anyone else in the world, really, because I had bought my first laser, and right when I opened, by the way, they changed the laws that I couldn't do injectables anymore. But what I came down with was, okay, I'm just going to hire a nurse and I'm going to train them. And I have to say, most of my nurses are still with me 18 years later.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
so
amazing.
most of the staff is still there. And, it was a fun time, though, because when I started Kate Somerville, we would see a client, they'd come in, the esthetician, me or somebody else that I had hired for an esthetician, we'd prep the skin, steam, do extractions, do exfoliation, Exfolikate.
Yeah.
And then a nurse would come in and roll in one of our awesome lasers that were now not ablative, right?
Right.
So it was like a lunchtime kind of peel, but it was so incredibly result driven. You just saw a difference when you left. And then the esthetician comes back in, puts on product, does massage, and then you go home with the proper products that are really built for your skin. And so our results were just people were you have to go to this place.
Yeah.
And so what ended up happening, a lot of makeup artists in the industry, freelancers that were working on celebrities, were you have to see Kate. The other thing that happened was I met the guy that was doing the Oscar bags at that moment. And Oscar bags back in the day,
That was a big deal, I remember.
Huge.
Yeah.
It was unheard of that a brand like me, because I wasn't even a brand. I can't even say I was a brand. I literally pumped the products in the bottles in my kitchen for the Oscar bag.
Wow.
But what happened was the entire Oscars ended up coming to my office. I got so many people, whether they were producers, writers, celebrities, and so it just happened. I felt like I was running from the moment I met or opened, and it was an incredible time. And then what happened, the paparazzi started sitting outside my door.
Oh.
And so I would arm because Paris was huge at this time when I first opened, and Lindsay and
This is
Nicole
Paris
Richard.
Hilton, everybody.
Yeah, Paris Hilton.
Lindsay
In case you
Lohan.
haven't heard of her.
Yes.
Yeah. And the paparazzi just followed her. And so I would be will you carry my bag when you go out? And she was so generous, by the way. She's such an awesome girl. I love her. Hi, Paris. Anyhow, she just always showed up at my events. And then kind of the world knew Kate Somerville because we were in Us Weekly. We were in People every week.
It's incredible. It's so that we talk about it all the time, that just that right idea at the right time and just everything like peaking together.
Yeah.
I feel like everything you're saying that happened to you. It's amazing.
It was fun.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Even your skincare line, I feel like when I really think back to when that came out, there weren't that many esthetician-led skincare brands out, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so tell us about Exfolikate, because this is your best-selling product.
It is, yeah.
What makes it so magical?
Well, because it works. I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, like, people are going to come back to something if it works, right? Yeah. And so Exfolikate, so when you come into the clinic, we would always do a cleanse, steam, and then we would do a physical scrub. So back in the day, I used to have just bases, right? So different ingredients, and then I would mix for my clients on site. And some of my products had to be actually refrigerated, so they stayed together. So I would do a scrub first to kind of physically lift the dead layers of skin. Mm-hmm. And then I would paint on this amazing enzyme mask that had papaya, pineapple, and pumpkin enzymes. And pumpkin is really amazing too, and enzymes are great because they're not too harsh, right? Mm-hmm. They lay on the top of the skin and they're kind of like little Pac-Man, and they dissolve the dead layer of skin. And then there's a little bit of lactic acid, a little bit of salicylic, and then I put rosewood oil for the hydration and moisturization, and then I put cinnamon. And people are like, why cinnamon? Because, cinnamon can be kind of spicy, right?
Yeah.
But I wanted blood flow because you're in a treatment. You want that blood flow to the top layer. So I would paint that on, steam it on for about 2 minutes, and then I would rinse. So everything else that we would do would work better, right? Because you get that top layer off and
get that baby skin.
Yeah, and you get that gorgeous sheen in the skin, right? That kind of glassy look. And then, so one of my clients, really famous, came in. She was going to do a movie for 4 months. And she's like, Kate, what can I do to keep my skin looking like this? So I just took the beads and poured it into the mask and kind of gave it to her. And she literally called me later and she was like, you have to make this a product. This should be should be called Kate in a Jar. And so we named it Kate in a Jar. It did really well. It was my first launch on QVC, like in retail. Yeah. And it was just such an amazing product. It just works, right?
Yeah.
Every time, like, you can look dull, your skin could, like, you can have acne scars. It's good for all skin types, and it just gives you that glow immediately. And so, long story short, another company got really mad that it was in a jar. So we had to change the name.
I think I know which one.
Yeah. And that was, I literally, once again, thought my whole life was over.
Yeah.
And so we did a contest with all the girls in the clinic, and somebody came, and to this day, I do not know who came up with the name Exfolikate.
Are you listening?
I know.
You're going to get a prize pack.
Yeah.
If you pop into our reviews and tell us if you came up with the name Exfolikate, we will send you the prize pack.
Exactly.
You're going to get some good Breaking Beauty merch.
So anyhow, it's funny. I sent an empty bottle to the CEO that was so mean about it. And I was like, thank you.
The shade.
Yeah,
the shade.
Like, success is your best revenge, you guys. It's not like literally in the moment it can feel devastating, but honestly, like, success is the best revenge.
Oh my God.
1000% agree.
Underscore. I have a question for you. This morning, so this is a bit of a tangent. Jill and I are staying at the lovely Four Seasons.
The Rege Bev Will.
That's the one. Mm-hmm. And so Pretty Woman styles, I guess. I went out by the pool and I wasn't fully prepared. So I shaved with my janky razor. And today I have a ingrown hair. So this morning I used the Exfolikate liquid Exfolikate on it.
Yep.
Is this a do or a don't?
It's a do, actually, because you're just exfoliating. And here's the other thing I'm going to tell you. Like, literally, I shuddered when you said your janky razor. So one of the things that I learned with that really prominent plastic surgeon is I got to work on some, like, really beautiful women that are, like, iconic. And they used to shave their face. Mm-hmm. And so to this day, I shave my face at least 3 times a week.
Yep.
And now my whole body, I shave only with a men's razor. I use the Gillette Mach 3 or 5, whatever it is now. Mm-hmm. So, oh my God, don't ever use those razors that are janky. You want to invest in a good razor.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, it just gives you that stunning, like, and I also have, like, a little mustache, too. Like, especially I'm in menopause and I'm getting the whiskers. That's really fun. But I just still shave them off. Yep. And it's so much better for your skin than waxing, just so you know, because waxing pulls the top layer of skin off and it can cause pigmentation. Yeah. My thing to you is just get a really good razor.
Yeah.
Make sure that you use like a great slippy like a cleanser. Yeah, sorry. And then afterwards, if you do get ingrowns, you can use our Eradicate spot, right? Because what's happening is you've irritated that follicle and it's caused inflammation. And with Eradicate actually changes inflammation within 1 hour. And it's going to dry it up.
Okay, so you mentioned off the hop about eczema when you were growing up. And I know this is a medical condition, so maybe you want to see a dermatologist first. But since you've experienced it firsthand, what tips do you have for anyone listening that tips for to kind of like temper it, you know, can just flare up at the worst times? Like, what's something that you've learned living with eczema?
Exactly. Like, I feel like there's a difference between, there's a lot of experts and facialists and that, but the lived experience is different than studying it in a book, I think.
Yeah. So honestly, eczema has been with me my whole life. It's hereditary. Okay. So my dad had it. I don't know before him who had it, but it also is tied to hay fever. So it's tied to your allergies. And so I spent kind of a lifetime trying to figure it out because my eczema was really bad on my body and I'm in complete remission now.
Wow.
But it is a journey and it is it's a lifetime commitment to keep it clear. So here's what I do. Okay. So I have to watch what I eat. So if I'm eating a lot of spaghetti, like acidic, like tomatoes, wheat, like not gluten, but wheat products, like when I did the crazy, you know, all these fad diets, the Atkins diet, my eczema went away completely because I wasn't eating wheat and sugar and bread. So all these things you have to take into consideration. So for me, I can't wear anything, like I can't wear wool. I can't wear things that like tags bug me. Like it has to be soft. The other thing is I have to take a bath twice a day.
Wow.
And because I have to soak my skin for at least 10-15 minutes, as soon as I get out of the bath, I pat dry. I do not scrub my skin. I do not use any soaps or detergents on my skin other than my private parts. And then immediately I put on a product called Curel. And Curel you can buy at any drugstore. And then for my face, if I'm in kind of a breakout, I have a whole line called goat's milk. And when I was young, my mom put goat's milk in my bath and my skin got better because it has natural lactose, it has proteins, and it just soothed the redness. And then I created a line called Delicate that is just filled with ceramides and peptides that help with redness. So those are the 2 products. If you have eczema on the face, that's what I would recommend. And, you know, your stress level also also is always going to be a big thing. The other thing, if you're in a really, really bad breakout, sometimes you have to use cortisones.
Yeah.
But here's my recommendation on cortisones. I use something called clobetasol, which is really strong, but I put it on 5 times a day in that area, and I push it in, like, because that medication needs to go deep. So it's how you put it on, and I only do it for 5 days because cortisones thin your skin, and they're not good for your body either. Like, I have some health issues because I've used so much cortisone in my life.
Wow.
Yeah, I get staph infection really easy,
Wow.
and that's a known side effect, like later on in your life, because your skin is not thick enough to keep bad
To
bacteria.
be the barrier, rather.
Yes, correct. So those are the things that you have to watch out for, but really watch your diet. I mean, I know that it's so hard though. I mean, I love sugar and I love pasta, but I suffer when I do too much of it.
Winter is coming.
Yeah.
So what tips do you have for switching up your skincare routine in colder months? We want to get specific with each step. So first of all, before we get into like cleansing, what's just the approach? Like, is there one thing you can say, a way of thinking, a mindset?
Yes. Yeah. So I have something called the 5 daily do's in my clinic, and all my girls are trained on it. And it's 5 steps to healthy skin. Like, if you look at my logo, it's Kate Somerville Skin Health Experts, because we want you to have healthy skin. So number 1 is a great cleanser for your skin. Number 2, believe it or not, is exfoliation. So Exfolikate. Number 3 is hydration, okay? And that is different than moisturization, because number 4 is moisturization.
Okay.
And I know that sounds weird, but I'll explain. And then the last one is protect. In there, you can add a couple of steps of correction if you need correction, like if you're having acne or rosacea. But typically, I want my clients on those 5 steps.
Okay.
The ingredients change with different times of the year and different ages, and because your skin changes over time. Like,
Right.
I am so much drier now than I was, obviously, when I was
Same.
a teenager. And I'm also perimenopausal, so I'm seeing a change. So my regimen has changed, but winter is my favorite time for skin.
Okay.
Okay, and I'll tell you why. Because summer, I'm kind of just like, okay, you guys are maintaining, you know, you're doing your 5 daily do's, but now winter, let's start turning skin cell over and get rid of the damage and start doing the work that you need to do to keep your skin looking really young and healthy, because the sun isn't as close, right? So, and you're not out as much. So you're not in the sun. So if I'm exfoliating too much, or I'm doing, you know, heavier treatments, you know, if it's in the summer, like the risk of them causing more damage is worse. We are so busy in the clinic because that's when we do all of our really heavy lifting and work. So for me personally, since I've been probably 28, I've done a heavier peel, one at least a year.
Yeah.
And the reason why I do that is because personally I'm in the sun a lot, and I want to take down that layer, and I want to get the damage off, and it helps me keep like skin cancers, keratoses, everything at bay. But it also keeps my skin young, because when you kind of do a peel, whether it's laser or chemical, your body goes, ooh, there's an injury, I'm going to stimulate collagen. Okay, so that's number 1. Number 2, if you want to get rid of sun damage, you want to get rid of wrinkles, you want to just keep your skin looking really fresh, add in your retinols, vitamin C's, kind of your more aggressive treatments, maybe 1 day or 2 days more. Like we have this product called Resurfacing Peel, and it's a retinol glycolic peel. It's an overnight peel. So in the summer, I recommend maybe once every 2 weeks. In the winter, I recommend twice a week, right?
Yeah.
So I have them sleep with it on, and then I have them do Exfolikate in the morning because they're turning over skin cell faster. And then a lot of times we're doing heavier peels, right? So we have something called the Moxie, which is it's like a light ablative, so it gets rid of a little bit of live tissue, but it's stimulating, and it's laser, so it's stimulating collagen. And then for those people that have too much pigmentation or they have hyperpigmentation, we'll do the deeper peels, like a chemical peel.
Yeah.
And where you kind of peel for five days. But I do one big one a year. And so I'm getting ready to do one actually on Monday.
Clear the calendar. Calendar.
Yeah. And I'm a skincare person, and I live in LA, so I don't stop working, and I don't stop doing things.
Totally.
I'm just one of those where I don't care if you look at me, because I'm just advertising what I do.
Yeah,
That's right. That's right.
But so I'm going to do Morpheus, which I haven't done yet.
I've heard about this.
Oh, yeah.
But fill everybody in.
So Morpheus is a laser treatment that tightens. It helps with texture. But like for me, I'm losing my jawline. I'm just starting to get, like, I have good skin, like as far as texture is concerned, except I have some scars and some enlarged pores in here. But I'm hoping that I get a little tightening, because I'm starting to feel like I'm melting. That's like my neck is definitely showing age. The other part that's showing age is my eyelids. So we have something called the Moxie that helps with that, and it has 4 modalities. But Morpheus, what it does is it puts energy into the skin, heat. Okay, it's mainly heat, and it tightens, and it makes your body go, oh my gosh, I have to stimulate collagen, I have to tighten. And then the Moxie is so awesome. It helps with redness, dark spots. It helps with more texture, because it's lightly ablative. And then it also helps with lifting as well. So those are the 2 that I'm going to do this winter.
Okay.
Because a lot of people ask me, well, should I do a chemical peel or should I do laser?
Right.
Okay, because the downtime's typically the same, right?
Yeah.
If you have a choice and you have the income to do a laser, I would pick laser every time. And I'll tell you why. Is because the heat part helps with the tightening of the skin.
Okay.
Where the chemical peel doesn't help as much with the tightening of the skin. So you kind of get double. You almost get like a great tightening facelift effect to a laser, where a regular peel is going to give you gorgeous skin texture.
Just resurfacing.
And color, like evening of color.
Yeah.
But it's not going to tighten as much.
Okay.
So glad we're talking about this. I always talk about different types of aging. Like, I'm going to be the face melt girl as well, because I have oilier skin. I'm not going to probably have a lot of wrinkles, and Botox is my bestie.
Yep.
But I can see it like already happening. It's like falling.
I know.
You know? And
it's so, because I'm really good about taking care of my skin. More because I have to.
Yeah.
Like, I'm kind of the practical girl. Like, I'm like a mountain girl. Like, I literally grew up really rustic. And so, believe it or not, I'm not that vain at all. But with skin, I've just had to take care of myself. But the one thing that's a bummer is, I'm losing elasticity at this age. And there's a lot of things that a lot of people are doing, like the threads. We do it at the clinic. I just personally can't. I can't.
Yeah, me neither. My stomach just turned, flipped.
I literally did one, and I'm like, nope, not for me. But I have to be honest, there's a lot of really older women, I can't say who, but that's what they do. And it looks good.
Okay. You've seen good results in person.
Insane. And they haven't done facelifts, and you're like, how are they at that age and they look that young?
It's the threads. Okay. Yeah, I want to get my under here, my neck snatched.
I feel like this is the next frontier in beauty.
Me too.
The lower third. Give me a pill,
snatch.
make something happen.
But can I say something to everyone right here?
Yes.
Okay, we just went through a pandemic.
Yeah.
And we're still here.
That's right.
And I have had, so I just want everyone listening to, like, we are hopefully all going to make it to 80. And we're going to be 80. And you know what? Things aren't going to look the same, but you just have to celebrate what we have. Like, we're breathing. We're like, we have to be really happy and accepting of age and what we look like. And, you know, it's hard being in this business, and like, you know, it's just hard, right? Because you're compared to so many things, and you look and you go, God, how do they look like this? And a lot of times they have filters on, and
but the fucking Gwyneth Paltrow 50th birthday golden body. No,
I didn't see it.
No
she
offense.
posted,
It's
she
on
was
the
like,
Instagram.
she's like, this is 50, and I was like, but
and
is it?
And then the quote is like, I've accepted all my sagging and drooping and whatever, and you're just like, you look like the gold Oscar sculpture. I don't like, can't
What are you
relate.
talking about?
Not relatable.
But I'm
You
just
know.
saying, like, just freaking love yourself.
And our last question for you, Kate, you know, you've been in the beauty biz for a while now. What skincare advice should we run away from? And what is the best skin philosophy that you can take to the bank?
Okay, skin thing you should run away from. Microdermabrasion, like,
Really?
yeah,
I haven't heard that.
Like anything sucking, like if there's a suction to the machine, like run. And I'll tell you why, because we're constantly fixing people with broken capillaries, pigmentation, because the sucking is pulling the capillaries and it's putting pressure on our capillary system and it breaks them. Okay, so if you're a big microdermabrasion person, like, run.
Okay, that's all great advice.
I do want to ask you one thing. Is there something that our audience needs to know about Foster Nation, right?
Yes.
Is there something coming up or anything that you want to tell people about for 2023?
I mean, first off, foster kids, there's so many foster kids. I don't know the number in LA, but it's astonishing.
Okay.
And these are kids that it's not their fault, right? They either their parents became addicts or their parents passed away, and now they have no parents. Like, at 18, they're given a bag in their foster home, and they're given shelter numbers, and they are on their own. There's no financial help. So if you want to mentor, please go to Foster Nation or any other foster care, you know, charity in your area and mentor these kids. So that's what I would say. Just get involved. Just give them the love, because they've had a really tough go of it.
Yeah. I just love that you're championing this cause, and you really do not hear about it, certainly in the beauty industry. So really commend everything that you're doing. So thank you so much, Kate. Thank you for sharing your story with us.
Yeah.